What is up, gents? 40k Dirtbags here. We won another tournament with our Chaos Space Marines. So first off, thanks for clicking on the video. If you guys haven't seen this before, we go over game by game of every single match that we had. I take pictures from above. We go over tactics, what I did good, what I could have improved on, and also the competitor, what they did, what they could have improved on. And it's got a whole bunch of tactics in these videos. So we just won Winter Ruin Grand Tournament out in Coplay, Pennsylvania. So it was about a 42-man tournament. Our boy TJ Lanigan was there. I invited him out. He came out, supported the local meta scene, which is cool. He ran his Chaos Demons, but we run Chaos Space Marines, and they broke it up into different brackets after the first two games. So we played 2 games, and then they broke us up into brackets, and the top bracket, I believe, had 10 people in it, and then every other bracket had, I believe, 8 people in it. So if you did the math, I think it was about 5 different brackets. The winners of the bracket won prizes, so it was a ton of prize support, and then the winner, first 3 winners took home the prizes for the top bracket. But it was definitely a great weekend. Shout out to those guys out in Coplay. They definitely ran a good tournament for their first GT, which they expand to hopefully do two a year, which will definitely come back out again. So this is player place terrain. If you guys are looking for a video to kind of get better at tactics, that is what this whole channel is about. 40k Dirtbags, we're building a Dirtbag community. We have Patreon, so I appreciate everybody who goes on to Patreon and supports the channel. We also have a Discord if you guys want to join, links below. We have Chaos Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, Grey Knights, and Death Guard. Those are like my main armies, but we're probably going to be starting Custodes, but that's on the hush, so don't tell anybody. And there's a ton of battle reports. I try and do at least 1 to 2 battle reports every single week. They're very competitive. I try and get the most out of the games that I play. So we placed number 1 for Grey Knights last year in 2022 season. So we are the top Grey Knight player for 2022. And then this year we're switching a little bit more towards Chaos Space Marines, but I heard that they're not doing armies top. It's basically just in general. So we happen to place 90th overall in the world last year in the ITC rankings. So just to give you a little background of what we are as a Dirtbag Nation. So let's go over, in this video, we're going to go over the list that I ran, what I liked, what I didn't like about it, and then each game. There's 5 different games. The first 3 games were the first day, and then we had 2 games on the final day, which were super brutal, but we're going to go over each step by step. If you guys are wondering, this is the Cuddle Buddies team that I'm on. I was on it for about 2 years now, and great group of guys, so that's kind of why our jersey looks kind of like this. But let's get over the list first, and then after that, I'll try and break it out into a timestamp so you guys can kind of go through that. And if you guys want to support the channel, go join Patreon. It's $1 a month, $5 for a Justicar, and $10 if you're interested in competitive play. We do competitive Patreons, which are able to message me and one-on-one in Discord. We go over lists, tactics, strategies, whatever questions you possibly have throughout your entire 40k career. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so here is our Chaos Space Marine list. This list I ran, if you guys saw my video, I'll link it at the end, but we ran it at a local RTT. We went 3-0. We didn't happen to play guard at that RTT, but we went 3-0 at the first RTT that I played Chaos Space Marines in, so did pretty good. I tweaked it a little bit, and this is what the final result was. And then obviously we went 5-0 at the first GT that we ran Chaos Space Marines in. So we're running Black Legion. I definitely think Black Legion is probably the best Chaos Space Marine Legion, arguably, with Emperor's Children, that we have in the Codex. They have a cool secondary that works with bikes and units. They have Abaddon, obviously, that can buff up the entire unit, and they have amazing strats. So we're going to get into all that in this video. So hopefully you guys are taking notes, but there's going to be a ton more videos on the channel about tactics, specific armies, stuff like that. So first off, Abaddon, he is our warlord. We brought him with his warlord traits. So he's able to give a unit Vendetta, which you pick a enemy unit on the other side of the table, and every time one of your units, Cory, I believe, is within 6 inches of Abaddon, whether it be shooting or melee, they get to reroll full wounds onto that target, which I haven't really used previously until this GT, which I really try to focus on. And then he's got reroll charges on himself, and I think +1 strength or something. That might be the Coen thing. But the main thing that you're bringing that for is the reroll charges for himself. And he can give out full rerolls to hit and wound to a Black Legion unit. Plus, he can put somebody in the wonton for round 2. So bikes, for example, if you're in round 3 and they're within 6 inches of Abaddon, that he can put them into the rapid fire wonton for the rest of the game. Well, every single turn, but you're basically putting it out for the next 2 turns. So first 2 turns are rapid fire. Then turn 3, you can put them in the rapid fire. Turn 4, you can put them in the rapid fire. And turn 5, you can put them in the rapid fire if they're still alive. But what makes them so good is they literally always have exploding 6s on their rapid fire weapons with their plasma and their bolters for basically the whole game. So that's why he's so good with the bikes in Black Legion. Next up, we got the Dark Apostle. He is undivided. He's got the Cloak of Conquest, which gives you OBSEC, which played out a lot in almost every single game. So everything within 6 inches, character or core, gets OBSEC. So your Terminators, your bikes, all your characters are now OBSEC, which definitely helps out in Arks of Omen. He brings the Illusionary Supplication, so he gives core units or character 4+ trans hitman, so you can only hit the unit on 4+, and you know rerolls, which is what makes him so survivable. he's just a great unit for 95 points. So Master Possession, he brings the Liber Hereticus, which he can cast 3 powers. And he extends the range by 6 inches. So he's basically casting 24 inches away to either bring a guy back, give out powers, or +1 strength or toughness. So he gives out Slanesh power, which is the Feel No Pain, to my Abaddon. He can get it in Black Legion, or your Terminators, which are also Slanesh. So gives out the Feel No Pain. He gives out the +1 strength to toughness, which you can put on the Terminators, or you can put on the bikes turn 1 if you really need it. And then he gives out the Shank a Guy, which he can shank a guy, take some mortal wounds, and then make a guy. That's his little combo, which I'm going to do a whole video on that. But he can make a guy into a unit. Now, if he's not close enough to shank, and you already have a dead guy, he can basically just make a guy 24 inches away. Now, the unit has to be 24 inches away, but you can place a guy further than that as long as they're in coherency of that unit. So let's say you're tagging back like that one Terminator within 24 inches of your guy, but they're spread out 6-7 inches further than that, and then you make a guy 2 inches further than that. You basically control the entire board with this one guy. It's really, really good. Sorcerer and Terminator armor, he's specifically here for the where is it? He's got the relic on him, which is the Veilbreaker Plate. So he's bringing Veilbreaker Plate. Veilbreaker Plate is the Black Legion relic, which ever since I saw that when the book first came out, you're able to teleport a core unit in the movement phase, not specifically anywhere, it's just in the movement phase, anywhere outside of 9 inches from an enemy unit. So basically you just pick them up, put them back down, anywhere on the table, as long as they're all wholly within 6 inches of the Terminator. So remember that if you're playing against it, make sure everybody's within 6 inches, wholly within 6 inches of that Terminator Lord. Now you can spread it out pretty far. It's 6 inches this way, 6 inches this way. So if you put them in the center, you have a pretty far bubble of putting your Terminators. Now this came in play almost every single game, and you're going to be hearing me talk about it almost every single game, because it's one of my favorite relics in this book, because my aggressive play style, it's kind of what I'm doing. I'm taking a literally 430 point Terminator brick, fully buffed up, and just throwing them in your face that has like a 4-inch charge turn 1. It is broken. Not broken, it's not broken. I'm just pretend I didn't say that. It is fun. So it's super fun to play. You need some practice to get the timing down and knowing when you're going to do it. But he comes with a familiar for free, so you get to get a free reroll. If you need to do Warp Ritual and you fail it, or you roll really low, you can reroll it again. He's got a Combi Melta, so that way he hits on 2s for the closest target, because he's Black Legion. So he comes down, hits on 2s, and it's a Melta, so D6 damage. I'm bringing Death X. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to keep Death X or get rid of Death X. But Death X gets rid of an invuln save. So he can come down, take an invuln save away from 12 inches away. He needs an 8. If the Veno Crawler is within 9 inches of him, he'll need a 7. So it's 50-50 odds, right? And also he's bringing Warp Time. So he can bring Warp Time in case you need to. Warp Time him back, Warp Time him up. He can't do it when he gates, but you can Warp Time another unit like Abaddon up. So if Abaddon gets near the Terminator, he can then cast Warp Time, and then Abaddon can get 6 inches further to kind of protect the Sorcerer and also be kind of right in the middle of the Terminator. So you can play around with it, but you're basically throwing everybody plus Abaddon as far forward as you possibly can. So that's a really good combo, and that's why the Sorcerer is there. He's also Jentzsch, so he can give a 4-up invuln save to the bikes. So I forgot about that. He's Jentzsch, he ignores the first failed save, and he can give a 4-up invuln save because it's a Jentzsch power to the bikes because the bikes are also Jentzsch. We brought Cultist unit. They're basically just our backfield screen. They can also do actions, so you can do the action for Black Legion. You can put up a banner. You can block out charges. You can block out your backfield. I think having a unit of Cultists is always clutch in a list. Legionnaires, we brought 2 Legionnaire units. Now you probably haven't seen this in a lot of other lists. A lot of people like to run melta guns, Reaper chain cannon, plasma, whatever it may be. I like last cannons. Last cannons specifically in Black Legion, just because if you move and then you're shooting the closest visible target, you hit on 3s still. If you don't move and then you're shooting the closest visible target, you're hitting on 2s. So you can stick your last cannon out just a little bit to see that tank that you really want to see across the table, or the big bird, you know, that you're trying to kill on turn 1. You see it basically from anywhere. You don't most likely have to move because you see it from everywhere, and then you just shoot 48 inches away, strength 9, AP 3, D6 damage. So last cannons are really good in Black Legion on your Legionnaires, because I don't want my Legionnaires to be up front. I kind of want them to be in the back, screen out, block your home objective, and shoot from afar. So that's what they're there for. Everything else is free on them. You got the Power Fist, Plasma Pistol, 2 Astartes Chainswords, and the Chain Axe. They're all free in the unit. Same with the last cannon. So that's why I really like them in Black Legion, is having last cannons from all the way downtown. This is our big beefy Terminator unit. You guys have seen this before. It's still, I think, worth it. The entire weekend, it hasn't died. The 3 games I played the weekend prior in the RTT, they haven't died. You just have to be kind of cautious with them, right? So you want to throw them in your opponent as long as you can get into combat. If they're just out there in the open and they're not really doing anything, they're going to die. Like, you have to make sure you're getting them into combat, and there's some strats that you can use with this unit to make sure that they're always in combat, and I'll go over those in a little bit. We have 4 Combi Meltas, we have 4 Power Fists, we have 2 Chain Fists, and then we have 2 Combi Plasmas. That was the addition that I added in, because usually they get teleported, so they're within 12 inches for the rapid fire. And I know they always get rapid fire on their bolters, but if they're within 12, they get rapid fire on the plasma. And the plasmas are AP3. You can overcharge them because you're most likely going to be within 6 inches of Abaddon, so you get to reroll 1s, or you give them full rerolls to hit and wound from Abaddon anyway, so they're going to overcharge 2 shots, exploding 6s, turn 1s and 2, AP3, and 2 damage each, strength 8. So they're fucking nuking everything, guys. So this list, shooting is very scary. This unit charging is very scary. So when you charge in with Black Legion, you get +1 to hit on your charge. So you're basically charging in, you're hitting on 3s, right? Because your Power Fist or your -1, but then you're charging, you get +1. You can spend 1 CP if they have a -1 to them, or you might. That's a great question. So do you spend 1 CP? They're -1, so they go to 4s, but then you're +1, and then you spend a CP to go down to hitting on 2s. I haven't done that all weekend, but let me know if that's real, because I know you can only go +1 or -1. So if you're -1, you're 4. If you're +1, you're 2s. So you can go +2 to get to hitting on 2s. I haven't done that. I should definitely try that. But if you charge in, let's say somebody has a -1 to hit, you can spend 1 CP, go back to hitting on 3s on the charge. So basically, turn 3, they're just exploding everything because they have full rerolls from Abaddon, and they're just nuking shit. So they also have the Black Rune of Damnation, which is kind of a must on this squad because you're spending so many points on it. They're Slanesh, so they get the Feel and Pain, but Black Rune is -1 to wound, so that is 100% going on that unit. Then we have Unit Possessed. These guys were actually, I'm going to say, second MVP on the second. They're one of the top 3 units in this list. We have Terminators, Possessed, and Bikes. They did amazing over the weekend. Like, against Sasha, you guys will see in the last game, they did phenomenal. So we're going to talk a lot about them in this video. But Possessed hitting on 2s because of Black Legion, 5 attacks each, 6 on the leader, speed 9. You can advance and charge. Like, it's scary, that list in Black Legion. Fast attack. Here's the other MVP. So we brought a 9-man biker unit. I'm posting my list all over Facebook, Discord, all that stuff, and everybody's commenting, leaving me messages on Facebook Messenger, and they really want to know what worked with these guys. And I gotta say, them in Black Legion is bonkers. So giving turn 1 full rerolls to hit and wound from Abaddon, giving them a 4-up invuln save, and then giving them trans-hitman if you're not throwing your Terminators out. Let's say you have turn 1, you're just running everybody into places, and then you just fully buff up this bike squad. They're probably not going to die. They have trans-hitman, 4-up invuln save, ignore the first wound, shooting from 30 inches away for 1 CP for the demon shells, and they have full rerolls to hit and wound. So your strength 4 bolters wounding shit on 6s is going to do a shit ton of wounds, plus the combi plasmas I have in the squad are exploding 6s. They're going to do some damage as well. So they're going to overcharge because they have full rerolls. And you can spend 2 CP if you really want to, turn 1, to get +1 to wound on like a big target you really want to kill. So there's so many strats you could do with this specific unit that they're going to get their points back in 1 to 2 turns anyway. Turn 1, they might even just kill a big monster and get the points back from there. So they are a headache to deal with. They're speed 14. They could do the Black Legion secondary. They're awesome, right? So that was another MVP in the list that I really, really liked. Venom Crawler, I think, is a great addition in every single list. The +1 to cast for your Psychers. We have 2 Psychers in this list. One of them casts 3 powers, and the other one casts 2 powers. So I'm casting 5 powers a turn most of the time. So I want my Venom Crawler 9 inches away from these guys almost the entire game. You're not sticking them out turn 1 if they have long range shots. You're not sticking them out turn 2 if they have long range shots. You're basically waiting till the other team is whittled down. He can shoot 36 inches away, just a little like line to get to something. So he's hitting on 2s, exploding 6s because he's assault, strength 6, AP 2 damage, just marine killer. So he's great for 105 points. I would 100% rather bring this guy than Helbrute any day of the week. Him in combat, stupid. Stupid. Obliterator, guys, this is for if we want to take behind enemy lines. He can do the secondary if he comes down on objective that's not near anybody. He can come down and just do the action. So he comes down usually in the backfield, tries to kill a character, or does D6 plus 9 shots, AP 1, strength 5, just mow down some infantry. He's there. I'm not sure if he's going to stay in the list, but I did like him. He did whatever he could do in the games that we used him on, and it's good to have at least 1 unit deep striking, whether it be these guys, Raptor unit, or another shooter unit coming down. But I definitely like at least 1 deep striking for grabbing objectives or stealing objectives or putting people behind enemy lines, whatever it may be. So yeah, that's the list, guys. I definitely like it. There's a lot of shit to do. Let's go back to the Terminators. Terminators, what I was talking about. You want to keep them in combat. There's a 2 CP strat for Slaanesh that if somebody falls back, you can then spend 2 CP instantly and then pile in and get back in combat. And this actually worked against the guard player. So I was able to kind of circle the guard player's unit. He then had enough room to get out of unit to fall back, but he was still within 4 inches of me. So I spent 2 CP, piled in 3, was in 1 inch engagement range. So I tug him back up. So all of his tanks that were moving to aim at my Terminator unit couldn't shoot my Terminator unit. They could only charge, and guard doesn't really want to get into combat. So that saved my Terminators from another round. And you're doing this almost as much as you possibly can. If I have 1 CP left to reroll, let's say a failed save or whatever, I'm going to let that guy die. So that way on his turn, I go up to 2 CP and I'm saving that 2 CP to do this fucking shenanigans, right? To consolidate 3 inches to get back into combat. So that way I can not die to shooting. So you do this when you're tagging a bunch of different units. Let's say he falls back with 1 unit, and puts him, pretty close. He falls back with another unit, puts him pretty close. He falls back with another unit, puts him pretty close. And he falls back with his last unit. He falls back, you then spend 2 CP, and then you consolidate and tag them all up, or at least 1 unit. It works great into Tau. So you tag up that 1 unit, so that way they can't be shot again. So he's like doing all these fallbacks, all of a sudden his last guy falls back, and then boom, you spend it. Or if you know that he's going to get out of range with all the units, let's say he moves his first guy and he moves pretty far away. You're like, oh shit, I have to do it now. So you spend it now and then circle one of the guys that's still left in combat. So he has to either spend 2 CP to desperate breakout, or he's just stuck in combat and can't really do anything. So there's a couple different strategies with that stratagem, but it's a very, very good stratagem. Another really good stratagem, guys, is the Black Legion stratagem, where you can fall back, shoot, and charge, and you ignore movement penalties, which I didn't know until I think game 4 or 5 of the tournament. So you can spend 2 CP during the start of your turn, and in the movement phase, if you fall back, you can still shoot and charge as if you didn't fall back. So that stratagem right there, let's say they don't fall back that turn and you're able to fight and they're still alive. So now you can say that you can use that 2 CP that you were going to spend and use it on this stratagem, so that way you can fall back, shoot, and charge, and just nuke down shit with your plasmas, your meltas, and then charge something else to get in combat. So that's why this unit didn't die most of the game, or most of the tournament, because I was able to just do all these stratagems with this specific unit. So very, very good. A lot of stratagems. Definitely study your stratagems and know when to use them, because it's gonna help you win the game, especially against guard. So there goes the list. Leave it in the comments what you guys like about this list. Are you going to be using this list? Are you going to be testing out? What would you tweak? Stuff like that. So there goes the list. Let's get into the next part of this video, which is going to be the pictures that I took of each game. We have 5 games to go over, and kind of what missions we played, what we did good, what we need to work on. And also, again, leave in the comments below what you liked, what you didn't like about this list or this video. And if you want to see more videos of this, I have a ton on my channel of different armies, and we're going to have a lot more of the Chaos Space Marine armies coming up. So let's get into it. All right, so first game of the 5-game GT was against Chaos Knights, and it's funny because I actually practiced the almost exact same list as a test game on Monday against Craig, which I posted on the channel. So if you guys want to go check that out, go check that out. But it was basically a big knight, no rerolls to hit or wound against it, a bunch of little knights. You have the autocannons, the melted guns, the chain swords, the claws. Like, essentially it was the same list. So this was the list. Now this guy won best painted in the tournament because his conversion and paint job on all of his knights were all custom. Like, each knight has something new to it, and they also have all little nameplates on the bottom. The base was amazing. He had these little markers for every time he did his secondary. He could put that on the objective. So this was so cool. And these weren't, like, he had a really cool knight that he showed me a picture of. It was a tentacle out of the face coming out, and it was grabbing the dudes. It had a commissar shooting a dude running away on the bottom of the base, and it has his like face blown out. Dude, it was insane. All right, so let's get into it. So this is the first matchup, Chaos Knights. This was just a picture of, the customization that he had. It was insane. I think I took a couple more. There's some more. And this is the setup. All right, so we played in a row. It was like every mission starting from 1 to 5 in a row. So that's kind of how we set everything up. So it's long deployment zones. 18 inches up, I believe, right to there. And then we set up our deployment. All the bikes are all the way in the back. He could get some line of sights with his autocannons if he could. Everything else was kind of hiding in the ruins. So now it's player placed. So this is kind of how I set it up. I'm going to do a video on exactly how to do player place, goals, objectives, tips, stuff like that, because this is the 3rd or 4th tournament I've had player place, and I'm actually starting to like it more and more. It just gives you more of an advantage against shooting armies. The terrain that we have at Alter Universes, it's standard. We try to make it as even as possible, but both sides have the exact same terrain. But if you're going against like Tau or a shooting army, if you get onto an objective, you just get shot off the table. I like Games Workshop over our home objectives, our home tournament, because you can actually hide stuff, but also I like player place because then it's even on both sides. Like, if a shooting army wants to open up the board, he doesn't have to put terrain anywhere. He can kind of just put it off the sides. But if you're a melee army, you can put terrain defensively, so that way you can actually get some points on certain objectives. So with this setup, I had my cultists all the way in the back here. All the characters kind of dead center. all the bikes and Terminators in the back. Now the goal with the Terminators was to do Veilbreaker Plate or not Veilbreaker Plate. So I had them all the way in the back because if I was going to Veilbreaker Plate, it really doesn't matter where they start. They could start all the way in the back if you really want to. If you don't want to Veilbreaker Plate, then you kind of wait a turn and they just kind of move forward and wait. So for this setup, he had turn one, or I had turn one. So basically I moved up, fully buffed up my bikers here. I gave them full rerolls to hit and wound. I gave them +1 toughness. I gave them the 4+ invuln save, and we were going to do the vendetta on the big knight in the back there, but he doesn't have any rerolls to hit or wound on him, so vendetta is kind of pointless. So we put vendetta on one of the little armigers that have the special traits to it. I think it was this guy that give you the 5+ CP back. But turn one, moved up the bike, spent 1 CP to do 30-inch range, and we basically blew up one of the dreads back here. And he's like, holy shit, didn't know that they can shoot that long. And this is like the 3rd time I ran these bikes. So I didn't know that they could blow up a knight pretty easily, especially with plasma and all the shots, full rerolls to hit and wound from Abaddon. Everything else, we took banners on this mission. I tried the Dominions last time I played this mission, and it wasn't the best. So I think banners is better on this mission, because you basically just turn one, put all the banners up, and just wait for them to either come to you, and you have OPSEC on almost every single mission. So he did the action on this objective, so no matter what side he did the action on for the secondary for his knights, I was gonna Veilbreaker Plates at that objective and try and kill that knight. So here's a tip: if you're doing Veilbreaker Plate, you want to shank your Terminators turn 1, and at least try and kill a Terminator on turn 1, so that way when you Veilbreaker Plate, you don't have to shank again. And what I mean by shank is you stab a guy to do D3 mortal wounds with your Master Possession to then bring a guy back to make the charge that much easier. So turn 1, you kill Terminator so that we don't have to worry about it. And then turn 2, you can then do Veilbreaker Plate, fully buffed up, plus add a guy to the unit, and then you get the extra charge, especially with Abaddon running up. So Abaddon's as far forward as he possibly can. Now, turn 2, we move up the bikes a little bit more to get more shots on the armigers. The dreads, or the Terminators, Veilbreak. Abaddon runs up. Master Possession runs up to get OPSEC onto that unit. I'm sorry, Dark Apostle runs up to get OPSEC on that unit. I had to drop the Obliterator in the backfield to keep my home objective going, because he kept shooting his Havoc launchers into my dudes in the back here, my cultists, and he just kept plinking off the cultists all the way in the back. I put my Possessed over here to protect these Legionnaires in case you have any guys coming in. I think he had 1 guy in reserves. Yeah, I think he had this guy in reserves who was just walking on. It was Nurgle, Melta, and Chainfist guy. So these guys are fully buffed up, Transit Min, +1 toughness, full rerolls to hit and wound from Abaddon. Basically all these buffs just kind of chilling there. Now he's about to realize that if you shoot all these Terminators in cover, they're not really going to get moved. So he puts a lot of shots into those guys. He takes my bikes down to 2 dudes left, but I still have 2, 4, 6, 8, I think 9 Terminators left on this objective. So you could see the big dread is dead. The other 3 dreads over here are dead, mostly because of just all the meltas, the plasmas, the reroll hits and wounds, and then the Combi Fist and Chain Fist, they just nuked everything on this side of the table. So he still has 2 little dreads over here, 1 dread over here. The Possessed moved up and charged. I think I spent 1 CP to do the advance and charge on these guys for Black Legion. So put them into Red Corsairs, they move up, advance, and then they charge. I left this guy on 2 fucking wounds. So almost killed him. And then I was gonna try and tag this dread up because he has a Melta and a gun, so he's not really good in combat. But instead I just kind of stayed in combat with this guy. His turn, he moved that dread up to steal the home objective back here, or at least tie. So we tied the home objective, so the banner didn't come down, but we tied because he had 5 OPSEC, I had 5 OPSEC, so the banner was still able to stay up. They then walked out, killed that dread off the objective, got me a Long War, which made it a lot easier. And these guys kind of kept getting shanked by the Master Possession, so there's only 3 guys left with 1 wound. These guys then found up their way over here. One bike left. Venom Crawler moved up. The Terminator with the Veilbreaker still kind of chilling out there. Abaddon came in and killed a Dread, I think, last turn. So all he has left is this one Dread over here who's doing the action. So he got off the action on the back objective, got off the action on this objective. And then by the end of the game, everybody's kind of just over here finishing off the last dude to get me long war. So the Terminator started all the way back here. You can't see it on the screen, but they started all the way back here. Got Veilbreaker plated to here. Finished off a bunch of guys over here. Finished off a bunch of guys over here. And now they're basically right here finishing off the last guy. So the Terminators did fucking work in this game pretty easily. So that was the game. Again, I kind of knew it going into it that this was a easier matchup for Chaos Space Marines compared to Knights, just because how tanky they are. They don't really care about being shot because of Trans Hitman. They're toughness 5, so the Meltas aren't really going to wound. They have -1 to wound on the Terminator squad, so you're wounding on 4s with the Meltas. So yeah, it's a good matchup into us if you're going against Chaos Knights. So end of the game. We got Bring It Down, maxed out 15. We got Long War for 14. We got Banners for 15. We got Max for Primary. So we finished off the game 1 with 99. He got 22 for Primary. Ruthless Tyranny, he got 8. Storm the Darkness, he got 8. And then No Prisoners, I believe he got 8 as well. Finished off with 56. So 99 to 56 game 1. Felt good going into game 1. And then after game 2, I'll tell you, we split up in a bracket. So I just wanted to win the first 2 games so that way I can guarantee myself being in the top bracket, because they give prizes out to the top 3 players in the top bracket. And then brackets winners of, I think, 2 through 4, they get a prize. So we were trying to get in top bracket so that way we can fight for at least 2nd or 3rd. So game 2 against our boy Matt DeFranza. He actually was a well-known name dude back in the day. He won like almost every tournament around the area. I don't know if he was going for like Team USA or something, but basically had a life, I think, family, all that stuff, and then kind of took a break for 40k. Got back into it this year, so super excited about seeing him. He came up to one of the stores and I was like, oh my god, Matt, you're back. So he came back. So he's doing really well with Eldar. His Eldar is very, very fast, very, very sneaky. He brought, let's see if I could remember, Avatar, 3 of these big transport guys. One transport had striking scorpions in it. He had 2 units of the 2 units of the scorpions, 2 units of the banshees. The banshee dude, special character, the scorpion special character, the other special character. There was like 3 special characters that they're all OBSEC. They all have like crazy damage output, and they're all wound cap. So they have 6 wounds, wound cap of 3. So I knew it was going to be tough. He also had a unit of Shining Spears, a Viper, the Melted dudes in the transport, which is over here. He was starting off the table. He can come in turn 1 if needed. Obviously Avatar Arcane. These bikes back here that can do Fleet Foot or whatever. You can do D3 negatives to charging, which I didn't know. And yeah, so he basically pre-deployed all of his guys kind of up front, and then you spend 2 CP and you can redeploy him. So he spent 2 CP and put him into reserves instead. But if he would have had turn 1, he basically would have just slung his whole army into my front line and probably would have killed my Terminators. Luckily, I had turn 1. This is the first time he played Chaos Space Marines, so he was very passive. Like, he was putting all of his guys in the back. I took Long War, so he didn't want to put anything on the objectives, so he kind of gave up this bottom objective turn 1. He had a guy in the center. These guys, he had them in the center. So I was going to try and get a turn 1 charge on them without doing Veilbreaker plate. So I moved my guys up, shanked them twice, made a Terminator, had like a 5-inch charge. Then he tells me that he has the minuses to charge, and I was like, well fuck. That would have been good to know. So he rolls it. I think he rolled like a 2. So I have now a 7-inch charge on turn 1, which still isn't bad. 7-inch charge with Abaddon's +1. I fail it, I reroll it, and I fail it again. So basically, he has the center objective still kind of there. My Termies are in the open. Everything else kind of stayed back. I didn't have a lot of shots because most of his stuff was hidden on turn 1. The player place was really good for both of us. We strung out the backfield here, strung out the backfield over here. Possessed are kind of running up. All the bikes are just kind of chilling. And then all the Terminators moved up. So this is essentially my turn 2 right now. So turn 2, I then decided to Veil Break. So we Veil Breaker plated all the Terminators up in this little center right here because he left me the center. The bikes that were here, they then just flew back in the back here to kind of like stay alive. But I put all my Meltas in range of the Avatar. I put all my Plasmas in range of the Avatar. We had a bunch of Bolter shots in range of this tank over here on the right side. Over here. Abaddon's moving up to get the extra charge. We had the Terminator Sorcerer do the Veil Breaker plate. All the bikes got to move up to get line of sight on this vehicle back here so it can potentially blow it up. And everything else kind of spread out. So on this turn, I think we blew up. Yeah, so this is the end of that shooting phase and charge phase. So we did a bunch of wounds to the Avatar. We did, I think, got him down like 3 or 4 wounds, and then we charged him. I think it was a 4-inch charge. So we combi charged the vehicle and the Avatar, and then we blew up the tank. All the guys got out of the tank, and we wanted to just get some shots off on these Banshees and Scorpions. His Viper's still chilling. We have 1 guy left in this squad. So we did a lot of shooting in this turn. So then on his turn, he moved basically everybody out of that vehicle, which there were 2 units of, there's the Striking Scorpions and then the Banshees. They moved out, Banshees advanced. His 1 character moved up, I think, to on the edge of here. The other Banshees scooted up over here. They were trying to get a charge off on my Sorcerer. These guys kind of flew away. The Viper is in this building on the other side of here. And I believe that was that. Yeah, so by the end of this turn, his 1 character tried to kill Abaddon. He has a relic where if he flies over you, he can do D3 damage. And then I think if he charges you, he could do D3 damage. He has a pistol. So he wanted to kind of like kill Abaddon in 1 turn, which he almost did. And then I re-rolled one of my failed saves and saved it, which then kept him to 6 wounds. So then he didn't want to charge him because then it would have been pointless. So I saved Abaddon by re-rolling one of the 4+ invuln saves. I got it. So that kind of like was, all right, Abaddon's still alive. He then charged the bikes, killed a bunch of bikes. They then fought back and killed a bunch of dudes over here. Now that was the end of his turn. So my turn, we ended up killing his 1 character here, finishing off these Banshees, and kind of tying up everybody else. Like there were Striking Scorpions on the other side of here with the Exarch, like the character dude. So by the end of the turn, all he had left was the Melta guys that could come in from Deep Strike, the Viper, and these 3 guys. So we kind of called it after that turn, and we just talked it out. We kind of saw how many points he could have got left, and this was the final score. So we maxed out primary. Assassinate, I took Assassinate, which against Eldar, it seemed to be pretty good. Long War, we got 14. Dominions, we got 15, so we finished up with 96. And then for him, he got primary. He got 0 on turn 2. Finished off with 8, because he got 4/4 for the secondary. Finished off with 8. Behind enemy lines, he got 11. Scout, he got 12, and then no prisoners, he got 6. So he finished up with 38. So 96 to 38 on game 2. So that was tough going into, because again, if he would have got turn 1, it would have been a completely different game. He would have just kind of slung everybody into my front lines, which it would have been a little bit different. Like the Termies might have lived, might not have lived, because they have fight first. So if he charges a lot in, I can then go before he does. I should know he has Banshee, so I would have to. Yeah, so it would have been a little bit different. I don't know if I would have survived, but it would have basically just been able to, the bikes shoot everything that's left, Abaddon shoot and charge everything that's left, the Possessed move up, charge everything that's left. So it would have been basically my 400-point Terminator brick gone, and then I think 1,000 of his points gone. So it would have been different, but we got first turn. He was very passive, stayed back pretty far, and we were just able to kind of like bully the board with the Terminators moving up, the bikes moving up and shooting, full rerolls to hit and wound on the units. So yeah, it was just a really tough game for Eldar, but he learned a lot, because that was the first time he saw Chaos Space Marines, Black Legion, bikes, and Terminators. So it was really good. Mike wound up finishing 4-1 in the grand tournament. So we placed, really, I think he won bracket 2. So he was still able to place and winning the bracket that he was in. So congrats, Mike. And then this was TJ Lanigan was there. He actually lost to Jesse, who was a guard player. Guard is just super broken right now. They just do so much shit. It's crazy. And all of his big beasts just can't really hide. So guard can shoot them off turn 1 essentially. So I think guard had turn 1. The bird was all the way in the back and just got blown up. But I took a picture because his army looks fantastic. Like just super, super cool. Great paint job. Dude just smashing the ground with the axe, the Bloodthirster. Or Scarbrand. It's either Scarbrand or the Bloodthirster. Game 3, we go into Nolan. So Nolan is our Chaos Demons player in the meta. He knows everything about every army. He's like my go-to 40k dude. Tells me all the tournaments coming up, just competitive players, competitive lists, all that stuff. So we happen to play him round 3. Which I knew was going to be a tough game because he's been running his demons for a while now. That has just been crushing people. He kills guard like it's his job, so he's really good in the guard. But he just got a paint scheme, so it's kind of like the statue paint job with green, blue, and red. And then he's got Bloodthirster, Scarbrand, and the bird. Flamer unit. 3 flamer units, I think, and a unit of blood letters, and a unit of these pink aura dudes in the back. So that was his list. Really quick, can come down deep strike and just mulch shit. The Bloodthirsters have the wound cap of 8. Scarbrand, you can't fall back. You do get +1 attack and always pass morale because he just wants to keep fighting in combat. So that's pretty cool. But all right, so this now Nolan's been waiting for me to talk about this video because TJ comes over like halfway through the game and like the bird's already dead and all that stuff, and it's really just based off deployment. I kind of won the game based off deployment. So again, player place terrain, we're doing the slanted 6 objective map, which it's really hard, especially if you can't go turn 1 and kind of take over the board. So we had 4 objectives in the center, 1 objective in each deployment zone. This was the deployment zone, kind of slanted. He put all of his stuff out there. I put all the stuff out here. If you would have put this big line of sight blocking terrain, which is like the tall one, in the back here to try and block his big characters, it would have been a little bit different. If he didn't deploy the way he did, it would have been a little bit different. So let's go over deployment. This is how he deployed. So we had the Bloodthirster, wound capped, this guy, Scarbrand in reserves, a Fiend unit in reserves, and Bloodletters in reserves. But he put the bird out front. My goal was to kill the bird as soon as possible. So when he puts him out front, I'm like, all right, we gotta do it. We gotta go kill the bird. My practice into the wound cap guy was shoot him from afar with the bikes to try and get his wound cap to 8, and then kind of wait for the next turn to kill him. So that was my game plan. My game plan was kill a bird as fast as I can, take this guy down to 8 wounds, and do actions, do secondaries. So for me, I took Dominions, Assassinate, I think, and Long War. I think I took this. Let me check just so you guys know. Yes, Despoil, Long War, Dominion. So we took the normal ones. Those I actually did those most of the tournament. So this was our deployment. My goal was to kind of move up, do Dominions on either this one or this one. Now, if I could do these guys on this objective, I don't have to worry about Dominions on this objective, and these guys will just die. So I just wanted them to move up, do the Dominions, and kind of just cool. You got me 4 points. Bikes set up over here because I wanted them to be within 30 inches of this guy. The Termies, they were most likely going to get Veil Break turn 1. Abaddon is in 6 inches of both squads, so he can either give full rerolls to hit on this unit or full rerolls to hit on the Terminator unit. And same with Master Possession. Dark Apostle can either do Transshipment on the bikes or Transshipment on the Terminators. Master Possession has to do Shank, So he's all the way up front, because if I do Veil Breaker Plate, I need them to be within 3 inches of him so we can shank them and then make a guy. So the deployment actually is pretty key with this. We have our dudes all over here that move up 9. These guys move up 6. So I'm able to kind of get objectives over here. So if he does go first and these guys die, I then have a second opportunity to do Dark Dominions on this objective. So yeah, let's go to turn 1. I have turn 1. So this is the then setup. These guys moved up, did Dominions on this objective. The bikes moved up. I did my Vendetta on the Bloodthirster, so that way the bikes reroll full wounds on the Bloodthirster if they're within 6 of Abaddon. And right there, they are within 6 of Abaddon. I left my Master Possession, so that way he can give +1 or trans hitman next turn to the bikes if needed. Venom Crawler moved up to get line of sight on the shots on the bird. The last cannon from my Legionnaires get line of sight on the bird. So they hit on 3s because they moved. The other last cannon back here got line of sight on the bird. So that's what I'm saying. Like, birds, you can't really hide, right? So if you have 2 last cannons coming in, you have all the Meltas, all the like Venom Crawler shots, like everything just aiming at the bird. The bird should die or get really low to shooting. And then all the other shots go into the Bloodthirster, so that way you can wound cap them to 8. Because if you wound cap them to 8, and then he comes up and charges you, you can then do 8 damage in your turn or his turn, and on your turn you can fall back, shoot, and charge, which then would kill him. So that was my goal with the Bloodthirster. All right, so here we got the Possessed up to that objective. We got the Legionnaires up to that objective. We did Dominions on this objective, and everything else kind of lined up. So Meltas and Plasmas in range of the bird over here. Everything else kind of stayed back here. We got all the buffs up on our Terminator squad. And at the end of this turn, we actually made the charge, and we combi charged into the Fiends and the bird. So we finished off the bird. I have to say this on camera because I did make a mistake. This is the first time I ever used Chain Fists. Chain Fists I thought were 3 damage against monster and vehicle. It's only vehicle, not monster. So I think I wounded him like 3 or 4 times on the Chain Fists. And did plenty of damage because I think he only had like 6 wounds left. I didn't attack with any of my Power Fists. I didn't attack with any of the cursed weapons. So he would have died either way. And we rolled it out at the end and he got obliterated either way. So then I learned after this game that Chain Fists are D3 into monsters and 3 into vehicles. So just got to say that on camera so Nolan is not fighting me. So let's get into it. So we killed the bird. Turn 1. We killed 1.5 Fiends. And the Flamers we tug out. Right, so we did all that on my charge. This guy again got down to 8 wounds because the bikes got to reroll all wounds into Scarbrand, wounding on 6s. The Plasmas wounding on 4s, but full rerolls to wound because of the Abaddon Warlord trade. And they're all AP too. AP doesn't really matter against demons. I don't know why I mentioned that, but we got him down to 16 wounds left. All right. So that was this dude. He had 1 flamer left, kind of ran out. He hopped up. He was going to charge the Terminators. He was going to try and surround the Terminators. Fiends moved up. His 1 caster stayed there. The other Fiends were stuck in combat. I have fight first. I don't think he has any fight last. So if he charges in me, I can then decide if I want to kill the Fiends, do damage to the Bloodthirster, and kind of go from there. So at the end of this turn, this is kind of what it looked like. We had 4 flamers over here. He killed my sorcerer, ran up here. He's got a Melta and can do powers like smite. The bikes are all still alive. Full rerolls to hit and wound on the bikes. Trans hitman on the bikes. What else did I give him? Illusionary, and that's really it. And then up here, I believe we did Dominions on this objective with the Possessed. And these guys kind of just spread out to get line of sight on the Bloodthirst again with the last cannon. The Obliterator came down here to kill this chick. So we were within 9 inches of this girl, so that way we can shoot her heading on 2s. And we spent 2 CP to fall back, shoot, and charge with our Terminators. So Terminators are able to fall back, shoot all their Meltas and shit, all their bolters, plasma guns, and still be able to charge. So, and then we had a Melta and everything from here. So I think the Bloodthirster died to shooting. Yeah, so Bloodthirster basically died to shooting. If not, I think he died to shooting. Yep, because we had the Melta, we had the last cannons, we had the Venom Crawler, we had his shots, we had all of the bikes. So the dude just died. And then we finished up the charge and finished off the rest of the Fiends with the Terminator squad. So at the end of the game, we had 2, 4, 6 Terminators. They had Delightful Agony, so the 5 of Feel No Pain. He's got a unit of 4 Flamers left. He had these guys, which we didn't really do anything to these guys. He brought in his Fiends and Corn guys in the top right over here. So they were able to deep strike. He, I think, rolled 3 dice, dropped the lowest, or just 3 dice to charge. For these guys, they got into my Possessed. Didn't kill the Possessed. I think he left 2 Possessed. Possessed then fought back and just killed a bunch of them. The Fiends failed their charge. So this is kind of a little matchup over here. Fiends are kind of just chilling. We have everybody kind of spread out right now. Scarbrand came down. Scarbrand came down and charged the bikes. I think he should have charged the Terminators because the Terminators only had Delightful Agonies up. He ignores invuln saves, so he would have just munched on the Terminators. These guys had Illusionary, so I think he only hit like 3 times each attack. So he killed 6 bikes in 2 turns. Flamers moved up. We still have our Sorcerer right here with the Meltagun. Abaddon's kind of just chilling. He was going to run over and finish off Scarbrand. Terminators are kind of just chilling, doing the secondary on his home objective. And then after this turn, we have Fiends, which kind of cleared off the rest of the 2 objectives. We have 1 Possessed left with the Venom Crawler coming in to do some work. We have the Master Possession moving up. We have the Dark Apostle moving up. Just keep putting Transhipment on the bikes. Abaddon obviously finished off the Scarbrand. The Melta and Smites helped with the Sorcerer right here. And these guys kind of just keep chilling on the home objective. Obliterator got the charge over here. Didn't really do much. And by the end of the game, this is what we found. This is what we wound up with. So 45 for primary, 15 for Despoil, 11 for Long War, and 13 for Assassinate. So we maxed out Assassinate, maxed out for Despoil, and Long War we got 11. 94 was the final result, and then I felt bad because I really kept them. It's a hold 2, hold more, so I kept them to 0 the whole game. So I apologize. Secondary couldn't really hold anything in the center because I think you had to do the action. Reality Rebels, he did get 6 still. No prisoners, he killed a bunch, so we got 7. And Warp Ritual, we killed his 1 caster, so we couldn't really do Warp Ritual. So I felt bad. I kept him to 13, maybe 23 with points with Paint Job. So 23 to 94 for Demon. So it was a very tough matchup. We talked about it like the whole night because after round 3 we kind of went back, got some dinner, talked about the games, and planned for the next matchup. And the next matchup for me was going into Eldar. I'm not Eldar, fuck Eldar. Guard. So Jesse is actually ranked #1 in the world right now if you go to look him up on ITC. So he's a very, very good player. He won last 2 RTTs that he was in and placed 2nd at this GT. So he's a very good player, has a really good army, broken army, I would say, with Guard. We'll go over his list because I kind of remember it at the end. All right, so let's go over this list. He ran a bodyguard unit, which is, if I were to suggest something, do not charge this unit unless you know you can ignore Feel No Pain, ignore invuln saves, ignore like almost everything, because this fucking guy right here has -1 damage, the Ogre, -1 damage, 4 up invuln save, T5, Feel No Pain. Like he is unkillable. So that's that guy. He's got a Psyker. He's got the Horse guy. Rough Riders. 2 units of the Broken Dudes that can teleport and do all... Right here. 2 units of the Broken Dudes that can teleport and do all the mortal wounds and shit, which I'll go over how I fucked that up. Unit of these guys that can make advance deploy, I think. They're snipers. Each unit has a sniper that can ignore characters, and I think it does 3 wounds. 3 units of mortar guys, all of the tanks in the world. So he's got the big tank that can basically go up in the air. He puts a point down, and then at the end of or next turn, I think in the shooting phase, he can have it go off, and everything within 3 inches of that takes mortal wounds. Didn't actually come up in this game, but it's very good if you want to kind of throw it on an objective, and then they either have to get off the objective or move out in the open, so that way you can shoot them. So it's a good idea. I don't know if he's going to keep it in the upcoming list, but against our game, it didn't really matter because I tried to stay away from it as I possibly could. He had 3 of the plasma tanks, 2 of the battle cannons. This battle cannon had the relic on it, so it was a commander, I think, battle tank. And I believe that was his list. So, and then 2 regular guard units. So yeah, very scary, has been doing really well with it. This was our deployment. I set up the crates to block this fire lane right here, so I can at least move from building to building to hopefully get shot. My possessed are too big, so they can basically be seen from anywhere. We played the mission where you can't advance deploy or gate into the center area, so I wanted to block out my backfield as much as possible, because I knew that he usually gates his mortal wound guys turn 1 to try and blow up units. So I knew that was happening, and I knew he couldn't do it turn 1. So he tried to do turn 1. I reminded him that he couldn't, so then he kind of put him back and waited a turn, and I couldn't do a gate turn 1 because of my Veilbreaker plate. So it was kind of even on both sides, but guard did get to go first. If you go second against guard and you still have something left on the table, I think you did good at hiding your shit. If you have nothing left on the table, then obviously you got to get better at hiding your shit. I was hoping to go first, just so I can run up and hide everything, but it didn't work out that way. He got to go first. He basically put everything on the line, and I just hit as much shit as I possibly could. The possessed, they had a lot of line of sight issues. I couldn't really fit them anywhere. All the bikes, they could be seen from pretty much down this side, which he had 2 tanks set up right here. So yeah, this is the end of his turn 1. So he moved up his tanks to get line of sight on my bikes. There are now fucking 3 bikes left. Couldn't shoot any of the other dudes in here. The possessed died from these 2 tanks over here. He couldn't shoot anything else over here, but the possessed died. Killed 6 bikes turn 1. And I think that's all he shot. Basically everything else kind of moved up and did actions. His 1 unit that has the bodyguard is on the other side of this wall. So I'm like, all right, he gave me something close, so maybe I can move up, kill a guy, make a guy, and try and get turn 1 charges just to get my guys forward, because again, I can't Veilbreaker plate in the center. So that's what I try to do, is I try to move up. I didn't want to use 1 CP to go into Red Corsairs either turn 1, because it was just for 1 unit. So I wanted to just try and move up 5, shank a guy, make a guy, and have like a 7-inch charge turn 1. So that's basically what we ended up doing. We left 1 cultist over here, so 1 cultist was able to be alive. I spent 1 CP to make 6 back. So we made them, moved up, did Dark Dominions on this objective, so that way they did their job, they can then die, and I try to block out a little bit on this side. What else? We moved everybody up, and this is the end of my turn. So bikes advanced over to here to just try and block line of sight. Veteran Crawler advanced over to here. Legionnaires spread out. These guys again moved up, did Dark Dominions. The Terminators were able to move up 5, shank a guy. I measured it out before we did anything. We both agreed on measurement. This game was really all about measuring, and it was a really tough game when it came to measuring, because there was a lot of stuff that came up where we were like hair in, hair out, stuff like that. We had to call the judge over a couple times. They had to like make judge calls. It was just a very stressful measuring type game. So with this, we measured, both agreed, moved up. We were able to make the charge. Abaddon advanced up here. I then warp timed them up a little bit further. These guys kind of hung back. Last cannon got a random shot off on this tank over here. We then made the charge on this unit, and I think only the ogre dude died. He also has a apothecary in that list, or that unit, so that way he can bring the ogre guy back with full wounds. What? So yeah, and then we have the 2 CP strat with Slaanesh, where if somebody falls back, you can then spend 2 CP and consolidate. So that was my plan going into guard, was trying to use that strat as much as I possibly can. So we surrounded his unit. He can then have one little slot so he can fall back that unit. So he falls back, he's still within like 2 inches of my unit. So instantly I spend 2 CP and then I consolidate back into that unit to tag them up. So that way he can't shoot my Terminator unit. My Terminator unit has all the buffs up on him. So he would have done a shit ton of damage, but he can't even shoot at them. So he lines up all the tanks to kind of shoot other things. He gets, this is the turn where he fucking brings the guys up, brings them back down, and puts them in my deployment zone. So look right here. See this little gap? This is where I fucked up. I left 9 inches to right about here, and then the Venocrawler left 9 inches to right about here. These guys left 9 inches to right about here. So it leaves them like this little sliver of his small ass bases can fit a whole unit within my deployment zone. So I forgot that I have a 2 CP strat to my Jentzsch bikes can shoot if you come in from reserves. So I forgot that I had that, but I don't even know if I had 2 CP because I spent 2 CP to I think reroll the charge and do the heroic intervene thing. So I think I rather would have heroic intervene with my Terminators than do that thing over here. But if this Venocrawler was fucking 1 inch back, 1.5 inch back, he would not have been able to put his guys into my deployment zone. He would have had to put them probably right here or right here or over here. So he probably would have killed 1 unit maybe. Like it would have been completely different. He would have either saved it or not done it, or saved it or went somewhere else to do that. So I fucked up right here with the Venocrawler not blocking on my backfield. I wanted to do that the whole game, messed it up, didn't do it. He was able to get his guys in the backfield, and this is what happened. See what I have in the backfield right now? Right? That's what I have left. Sorry, that's not even what I have left. So he gets his guys right here. And then this is what I have left. So he kills this unit with 6 mortal wounds and wounds, ignores cover. He kills the other legionnaire unit, 6 mortal wounds, more wounds, and ignores cover. And then he kills my 3 bikes, 6 mortal wounds, ignores cover. I know they don't get cover, but it was fucking brutal. So he comes down, kills 3 bikes, which is about 90 plus 10 points for the 100 points. He kills my other 90-point legionnaire and the other 90-point legionnaire. So it's 180, 280, 290 points worth he killed with that 100-point unit. That's why it's broken. The stratagems needed to be fixed. They weren't fixed. The fact came out, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. They didn't even fucking mention it, which is bullshit. I'm sorry I'm complaining so much, but that unit is stupid. So if you see this, it is going to kill you. You can't stop it. You can only block out your backfield. It's going to be very, very difficult to take out, to try and exchange for the equal amount of points for that unit. It's just ridiculous. So that was a big hurt. That hurt a lot. I had to deep strike my obliterator in my zone to try and kill these guys. I did D6 plus 9. I think I got like 13. He made a bunch of saves. They have like a 5-up save. He made a bunch of 5-ups. I think only killed like 4 of them. He still has 6 left. Tank moved up to the center to take the center. These 2 tanks are kind of controlling this side. These guys are just slowly creeping up. All the mortars are just shooting from the backfield. The Terminators did 2 CP strat to fall back, shoot, and charge. So we fell back, and I didn't want to get into combat with these guys again, so I wanted to blow them up with just shooting, and that's my suggestion, is if you see this unit, try and kill them just shooting. And then we wanted to kind of charge and do everything to these tanks. This tank, I believe, had 1 wound left. This tank was full. The leader was back here. And all my characters are just running up behind the Terminator unit. So I didn't have really a lot left. I had Obliterator, Sorcerer, which I took the Warp Ritual, 2 characters over here. He took Assassinate. I had Abaddon, who wasn't really touched yet, and then all the Terminators. So by the end of this turn, we strung out the Terminators to be within 3 inches of both these guys. This thing dropped his big nuke right here because he thought I was going to start moving that way, which I wanted to, but I couldn't. Terminators then got into combat with this tank. Abaddon started fucking running this way to try and get some damage going on over here. Tank died to Abaddon, so Abaddon charged the tank, killed the tank, consolidated. These guys move up out of the ruin. I think he didn't auto advance 6, so they kind of got to be able to run by Abaddon and steal the center objective again. These two tanks started moving up. These guys stole my back objective. They just scooted up and kind of did their thing. And then by the end of this turn, he wanted to try and do as much damage as he could to Abaddon. So he has like all this shit right here, just aiming at Abaddon. Now here's the thing: we were in a GT, and he has a Psyker. So he goes to shoot his little guys into Abaddon. I make the saves. He then shoots the other guys into Abaddon. I make the saves. And then he goes to do Psychic Power. Now, if it was like a Psychic Power into anything else or whatever you want to do, I might have let him do it. But he was trying to do, obviously, Mortal Wounds into Abaddon. So I'm like, honestly, man, we're at like top table, last day of a grand tournament. You didn't do the Psychic Powers after the first shot. You then shot again with another unit, and then you didn't do the Psychic Power again. And then you want to go do the Psychic Power. So it was such a tough call by me because I hate being that guy. But I had to say, I'm sorry, man. I can't let you do that. And again, it would have been an Abaddon. He probably would have done, hopefully 3 wounds. If he would have done 1, it wouldn't have made a difference. But if he rolled a 3 on the smite, it might have been able to kill Abaddon. So that was I hate doing it, but that was just such a tough call because he's such a good player. I needed every help I possibly could get. We're going against guard, so he forgot to do a cast on the Psyker after shooting 2 other units prior to that. So I felt bad, but we kept going with the GT. By the end of this turn, we had the Terminators move up to here. Sorcerer, I think, died. Yeah, Sorcerer got blown up by the tanks. The Obliterator got blown up by the tanks. He stole my home objective. I have my Master Possession, not within 3 of anybody, so he dies. All the guard are kind of running up on the left side over here. We have this guy who's within 3 inches of this dude, and then within 6 inches of that guy. So these guys become OBSEC. That was the one measurement that we had to do. So be within 6 inches of this guy to this guy, because I had to consolidate 3 inches. So we consolidated this way, which got within 6 inches of that guy to get the OBSEC, and be within 3 inches of this guy. So that was kind of the measurement that we had to kind of do over 3-4 times to make sure that it was right. So that got me OBSEC on this home objective, which stole the home objective. He then moved all his guys off the objective, so I couldn't get Long War. We then moved up Abaddon, and then by this point, we came down to all of those guys over here, 2 tanks left. This character died. This tank was on this objective, but I was OBSEC, so I was able to still keep it. And the 1 Terminator went onto the home objective. So by the end of the game, Abaddon's in the center to see if he moves up on the objective. Tanks killed basically whatever they could at the end of the game, which was another character. My other character ran behind this building, so you couldn't get shots on him. Both Terminators kind of spread out with Illusionary Supplication on them and just waited there. And then Abaddon moved up to finish off the rest of these guys. And this was the final match. So it was the toughest game of the entire tournament. Jesse's a great player. I apologize for any hiccups or whatever happened during the game. But he still wound up finishing in 2nd place. Again, he's the #1 player in the world right now because I think he went to 2 GTs and 2 RTTs, so he's doing very well with guard. We finished off with 88. We had a primary, sorry with all the scribble scrabble. So 38 for primary, 12 for Warp Ritual. After turn 3, my dude died. Long War, we had 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we had 13 for Long War. And then Minions, we had 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we had 15 for Long War because we were able to do it the last turn. So we finished up with 88 to 64. He had primary. That's kind of really where I beat him at. It was 38 to 28. So primary definitely helped out. He had 10 for the command ability, 10 for boots on the ground, and assassinate. He killed 2 of my characters, which then he got 6. So yeah, so we finished off with 88 to 64. So again, that was definitely one of the toughest games I've had in a very, very long time. In a GT setting, it's so tough because you still want to be friendly, but as long as both you guys are kind of doing the same thing, if you maybe shot one unit and be like, oh, I forgot to do this, I'm like, hey, whatever. You forget to shoot 2 units and then try and do it. It's like, it's just such a tough call. You guys let me know in the comments below. How many times has that happened to you? Friendly games, do whatever the fuck you want. I really don't care. You forgot the smite 3 turns ago, do your smites. I really don't care. But at a GT, spend money to go there. You're an hour and a half away from home. You're staying overnight. You're trying to get ITC points. Like it's a little bit different of a setting when it comes to a friendly match at an RTT or a friendly game or a GT. So that was just my 2 cents on the GT tournament setting. But last game is going into Sasha. Now, Sasha is a very, very good local player, plays GTs all over the world. A lot of people know him. And it's funny because we actually just got another practice game in yesterday, and I ran 27 bikes against them. It was funny. So he's running the Black Templars. Very tanky build. So he's got just a shit ton of infantry. He's got a couple units of the jetpack guys, a lot of free gear in this list. He's got the 20-man blob. He's got Hellbrick. He's got a bunch of the... his army is so customized. It's so hard to like really see everything that he has. So he's got the character guy that has the 3 little acolytes next to him, the priest. He's got the guy that has the fight last ability. He's got another captain that I believe can give rerolls. A couple units of the blade guys. Couple more units of blade guys. 2 tanks. This tank has in the command phase, it can drop a point down and basically do mortal wounds on 2 or 4 up, and does like D3 mortal wounds. This is not a flyer, which I didn't know. Like it doesn't fly. It kind of just moves. So that was crazy. But he basically puts a bunch of meltaguns or flamers in these 2 things. He has a thing where he can move up the transports. They can then get out or advance, and then they can still shoot. They can't charge, but that's a cool thing that I've never seen before, especially in this edition. And he's got a bunch of shield guys with shields, axes. He's got 2 units of the meltadudes, so they can shoot like a ton of shots. He's got a special thing where he can devout push, basically move up 3 inches in the fight phase. So yeah, it's just a shit ton max points on killing shit. So going into this game, this is the final game. Super friendly opponent. Me and Sasha, literally every single time we get to a GT, we always play each other. So it's always fun to play Sasha. This is the last mission. It's the 9-inch bubble in the center. This was our setup. I kind of measured the bike to make sure that I could get from my deployment zone behind the crates over to that objective turn 1, so that way we can potentially do dominions on turn 1. So this was deployment. He set up all these things. I set up all these things. I did take Psychic Ritual. Yeah, even against him, he has a 4-up deny, and he has another deny, which is like +1 to deny. Like, it's very hard to get it, but I wanted him to spend the CP in case he does fail. He has to spend a CP to try and roll 4+ to deny it. So I wanted him to kind of keep spending the CP to keep doing that, so the way he doesn't save up his CP. That was my mindset on it. Probably was not a good game plan, but we tested it out either way. This was my deployment. So we have the bike. This is after turn 1, sorry. So we have the bikes all behind the crates, able to move up 14 to get on the objective and do the dominions. We have the guys off the objective. He took the one. He took Oaths. He took the other one where if he kills a unit on objective, he gets 4 points. And then he took another one, R&D. So he took R&D, Oaths, and killing shit off objective. So I played enough Space Marines, especially Zach, where I try and stay off the objective if I know that he can kill me off it, or if I get on objective, I want to kill it and then consolidate off the objective to kind of go from there. So it was easy because I didn't take Long War, so I didn't have to be on the objectives. So I took Warp Ritual, I took Dominions, and I took Kill Shit, which is no prisoners. So for me, I got turn 1. I put my possessed right on the line behind this little building over here. So that way they were able to move up and get a charge off. I think I had like a 7 or 8 inch charge on his infiltrators that he put on this building, which I think was way too close. So he should have put them like all the way in the back there. So that way, if his infiltrator's alive, I can't gate because it's a 12-inch bubble. So keeping those infiltrators alive was so key that he kind of realized that, holy shit, I definitely fucked up. So I killed the infiltrators pretty easily with the possessed. They hit on 2s, -2, 2 damage. So just nuke those guys, consolidated off the objective. So that way he can't kill those guys and get 4 points. I didn't keep my guys on the objective in the center because even if he runs his guys out and hold the center, he takes it from me, which is, I believe is 4 points. And then these guys are kind of just chilling back here. I put +1 toughness on the Terminators. I put Delightful Agony on Terminators. I put full rerolls to hit and wound on the Terminators just in case. And then everybody else kind of like stayed back here. He didn't have a ton of shots, but I put a couple shots into this thing, I believe. The tank all the way in the back here. Just with the last cannons, shooting 48 inches away. He then hops up his guys, moves up everybody to the center. So he moves up the Melta guys. They get in range of my bikes. These guys hop out. They have a 8 inch charge to get around the building because I blocked 1 inch away from the walls to get around the building to end right here to try and get a charge off on the cultists. He then had these guys move up here to try and charge those guys. And then he had the Melta guys shoot my things over here. So he also moved up these guys, the 20-man blob. He needed a 9 to get around the building to get into here to try and charge my bikes. So he needs a 9 on turn 1. He needs 8 on turn 1, and he needs like a 3 on turn 1. So he has rerolls because of Black Legion. Or Black Legion? No. What are they called? I forget. What the hell is the army called? That army. So the Space Marine army, Dark Templars, Black Templars. So the Black Templars, they're yellow. So running around the building. So he failed his 9 inch charge, reroll it, failed it. He failed his 8 inch charge, re-rolled it, failed it, but then he made his charge up here. So I did have enough CP to interrupt with either of the bikes, which I definitely would have killed the squad. They probably would have nuked my entire bike squad. But over here, he charges in, needing 4s on the hammers, and then on toughness 5, so he wounds on 3s. With everybody else, they wound on 5s. So he actually didn't do enough damage to the possessed. I think he killed 2 of them, and then 3 of them nuked the squad. So they nuked the squad, consolidated onto the objective. So then I took it, so that way turn 1, I actually had 1, 2, 3. So I got 12 point on primary turn 1. Like that was huge. I was not expecting 3 of them to live. I kind of fucked up here where they moved up 9 when I should have charged these guys in the center with my possessed. Instead, I did a dumb thing and tried to charge over the fucking containers, like 3 up, 2 over, 3 down, and then get onto the thing, which I think I needed like an 8. Dumb idea. So that was my mistake over here. So in my turn, I move up Abaddon. I get to the center. I know he can just easily nuke this unit. His guys up here died from the bikes. So they had a Vendetta, which was on the blob unit. I didn't want to shoot the blob unit because I wanted to charge the blob unit with my Terminators. So the Terminators get gated to here. They were back here, so I gated them up to here. I put them outside of 9 of here with these 2 guys. I believe, shanked a Terminator the turn 1. So that way on turn 2, I didn't have to shank again. I just had to make one. So I kept my Master Possession all the way in the back here behind my head. Right, he's all the way back here, 24 inches away from his closest unit, so he can't deny. He can't do a 4-up strat to deny, because I really want this just to go off. So that's the benefit of having Liber Hereticus. You can cast it from 24 inches away, and shanking one of your Terminators turn 1. So that way you don't have to fight to shank a guy. So you make a Terminator. I made a Terminator. So this is essentially like a fucking 4 or 5 inch charge, +1 because of Abaddon, because we kept the guy back within 6 of Abaddon. These guys moved up and did they stole the objective from the unit up here. Abaddon was going to finish off this unit. These bikes shot at these dudes. I didn't want to shoot the big blob because he can take this guy away to make my charge farther. All right, so I shot everything into the Melta guys to try and finish them off. he had a unit in here still with the captain. The captain's here. Helberg's on the other side of the building. The priest is on the other side of the building, and all the other characters on the other side of the building. I believe he had one unit in here as well with a Thunderhammer. So on my turn, I failed my charge with my Possessed because that was dumb. I should have just charged in the center. Abaddon moved up, charged these guys. The bikes, I failed my 4-inch charge with my Terminators. I then re-rolled it and rolled double once. So the Terminators failed their charge because they would have just fucking mowed down the 20-man blob. And nobody's on this thing over here. So I wanted to charge in, come over, steal the objective, or just sit on the objective because I knew he couldn't kill my 10-man Terminator unit. So on his turn, I think I charged him with the bikes. That was another mistake. I should not have charged him with the bikes. So I charge him with the bikes. He kills 7 bikes in return, leaves 1 bike on 1 wound. Possessed are still up top. Abaddon kills this unit pretty easily. I think left 1 guy on a wound. Yes, so left 1 guy on a wound, and the Terminators failed their charge. So he wasn't able to consolidate on the objective, so that was what I was happy with. So he had to move closer to the closest unit, which was this guy, so he couldn't move this way onto the objective. So that helped me out as well. So on his turn, he got 4 points for primary because he held the back objective. He didn't hold this one, didn't hold the center, and didn't hold the top. On his turn, he tries to shoot my bike, right, with pistols. I make 2 saves, and my last save was a fail, but it was Jentzsch, so I ignored it. So I'm literally still in combat with 1 wound left. It was crazy because if the bike dies, they can then just charge Abaddon, charge my Terminators, and kind of flood my zone, which would have been so much better for him. Instead, he's stuck in combat with my bike, which leaves me, the next turn to shoot that unit and then charge into that unit afterwards. So he brings in some reserves. He has guys walking on the table with Meltas, which come in over here. So they walk on, they shoot my Terminators. They do, like, they don't really wound a lot. It's -1 to wound, trans hitman, toughness 5. So they're wounding on 4s with no rerolls. I have 2 possessed left over here because he gets his guys out and charges them. I interrupt and I finish off the squad that charged them with the 2 or 3 possessed. Abaddon comes in, the big Terminator unit comes in. So basically at this point, I shot Helberg. He was by himself over here, so he wasn't protected. I shot Helberg with Meltaguns. I took the character down to 2 wounds. This guy has 4 wounds. And then I charge into the blob with my Terminators and Abaddon. We take over the center objective. We do Dominions on the center. These guys consolidate off the objective up top because I don't want to be on the objective again. These guys are holding the back pretty strong. These guys get over here out of the objective. He does R&D with these guys in the top corner. And then by the end of the game, he moves up with his tank, charges my Possessed. Possessed then fight back, do a couple wounds. He loses his blob squad. He charges in with his characters. His other guys left over here with 4 wounds. I have left my Terminator brick, Veno Crawler, the Legionnaires. I run off my home objective. I think I keep 1 because you couldn't get the charge off. And then at this point, we basically like call out because I'm so much up on primary and so much up on my secondaries that you can't really come back. So we talk it out at this point. I think we only have, I basically clocked out after turn 4. He's got 7 minutes left. So we basically talk out the rest of the turn 5. And this is the final score. So we got 12, 12, 8, essentially 8-8 for primary, 2-2-2-2 for primary. Dominions, we got 13 because I did it on my home objective. I think the second to last turn before the other guys got on my objective. Kill shit, we maxed out 15. And then ritual, I got off twice, even with his +1 to deny and 4 up deny. So I was able to get that off twice, and then he died. So my sorcerer died. by charge of one of his characters, so I couldn't do it a third time. So we finished off the game with 90, and then he finished off with a primary of 34, which he got 12 at the end, so that was pretty good. Oaths, he got 8. Shock Tactics, I gave him 12, because 4-4, and then he would have got 4 potentially on the last turn. And then Retrieve, he did it 3 times for 8. So we talked it out. He got 68 points, and I got 90 points. So the last game, we finished off in the 90s, so it was awesome. And we won the tournament. So we went 5-0 with Black Legion. All right, so what did we learn throughout the weekend? Definitely like Black Legion. I think it has a lot of potential being one of the top lists to use. There's the top Black Legion player last year. My boy Keevil has been talking to him and like trading ideas and stuff like that. He's running Black Legion with 2 decimators. I think a smaller unit of bikes. The Veilbreaker plate, except he has the Nurgle Demon Prince in the list with the Relic Demon Blade, which I tried that out last night with my Alpha Legion, and it is fucking scary. Him being Nurgle, you could put Transhuman on him. So if like Avatar charges into you and then you put Transhuman on him, you can potentially live. And then you hit back and you ignore basically all the wound stuff. So it definitely is a good idea. I do like the Trans Hitman though. I feel like if you're going to run 2 big bricks, mine is the Terminators and the bikes, you definitely want to put Transhuman on one of them. I think it's really good into guard. I think it's good into a lot of different armies, especially demons. Demons would have just annihilated my Terminator brick. So he's obviously the best Black Legion player in the world right now. But the way that I'm running it, I kind of want to have 2 threats on the table. And there's definitely ways that I could have improved running the bikes, especially against Sasha. I ran the bikes forward and charged in the blob, which I shouldn't have. Into the guard player, I could have saved the 2 CP, so that way they could have shot when they deep struck within 12 inches. And also just always trying to get the 4+ invuln save on the bikes. So Warp Ritual, saving the 1 CP so you can actually do Warp Ritual and then cast another power because he's Jentzsch. So you can do that stratagem instead of just doing Warp Ritual and then wasting 2 casts because your Sorcerer can cast twice. I'm going to be testing out a bunch of different lists. So I just played, for anybody who is not subscribed to the channel, definitely hit the subscribe button so these videos actually pop up for you guys. But we're testing out Alpha Legion. We have 11 Legionnaire units, a Disco Lord, a Demon Prince, a Rhino, Cypher, who actually performed pretty well. And I think I'm going to do 1 Raptor unit, Warp Talon unit, and a Possessed unit. So they're going to be my advanced move and charge units. We have Night Lords. Night Lords I'm super excited about. I have a whole Night Lord theme army, essentially. I got my boy Mark, who's printing me Terminators that are just all Night Lord Terminators. So we're going to have a Night Lords coming up on the channel. So if you guys are a Night Lords player, that's going to be fucking sick. There's a list that I'm trying to make that gets -5 to morale tests. So you can only survive on a 6. It's going to be hilarious if it goes off. Doesn't work on any Space Marine builds or Black Legion, but it's going to be fun. So I'm probably going to be testing that out at the next RTT, which is going to be in 2 weeks from now. And then there's another RTT, which I'll be running a competitive list, probably Black Legion at it, or Grey Knights, who the hell knows. And then there's a GT coming up the following month in April. May has a GT. I signed up for Nova, so if you guys are going Nova, definitely come up and hit me up. And then ACO, Atlantic City Open. So if you guys are near the East Coast, Atlantic City Open, I'll be there, and then I'll be at Nova, which again is on the East Coast. And then I'm not sure about LVO this year, just because we have the wedding coming up, honeymoon, all the fun stuff. But that is basically what's coming up for the tournaments. As for the channel, there's a lot of videos that are coming up for tactics. We're doing Grey Knight tactics, Chaos Space Marine tactics, how to build Grey Knight lists, how to build Chaos Space Marine lists, when to use stratagems, all that stuff. The next video I think is going to be finished is going to be how to prepare for a GT, especially coming into Arks of Omen. We're kind of still brand new in Arks of Omen, so I'm going to be making a how to prepare for basically a multiple day GT. Minimum 2, max 3, but there's a lot of good tips in that. So again, make sure you're subscribed so they actually pop up. You can get the notification. I think there's a notification bell on YouTube, so hit that. And also merch. So there's a lot of dice that we ordered about a month ago. They should be coming in April. So once they come in, we'll post them on the Discord so that way you guys can start purchasing the dice again. And then objective markers. So we have artist on Fiverr who's making kind of, I forget what the word is, but it's like a bigger head anime version of the characters. So we have 6 done. He's doing 6 more. We're going to be putting them on objective markers so that way people can purchase them from 3D6 Wargaming, which we're technically now sponsored as a Dirtbag Nation with 3D6 Wargaming. So that's really, really cool. I might talk to Chestix, maybe they'll sponsor us as well for the dice. But a lot of stuff coming up. And if you guys are a Patreon, really appreciate you guys. If you guys do like the channel, you want to support the channel, head over to Patreon. It's a couple different tiers. You got the $1 tier, you get the $5 tier for the Justicar if you want to support a little bit more. You get first merch, ideas, polls, all that stuff. And then the competitive Justicar, if you guys want to kind of talk to competitive scene, you get one-on-one coaching with me in Discord, and send me over any lists, ideas, comments, anything. And then the Grandmaster Justicar will actually be able to run one of your lists that you want to test out on live or recorded games, so you guys can kind of see how you should be running it, how you should be testing it. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming up. Really appreciate it, guys. Leave the comments. I'd love to know what I could do better on the channel, on the videos, recording, all that fun stuff. We're going to be trying to do more live streams. I have a shit ton of stuff to paint, so it was a cool hangout when we hit 2,000 subs last time. So we're going to try and do it again more often, most of the time later at night, probably after work or during like the last half of my work. Just kind of put the camera on and start painting. But yeah, so I appreciate you guys. Thanks for clicking on the video, and we'll see you in another video soon.